Everybody, I'm Spencer Aronfeld, and welcome to the Trust Me, I'm a Lawyer podcast. With me, as always, is my co-host and executive producer, Nory Aronfeld. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Hello, everybody. Welcome.
Nory, today we've got a super special guest. Tell everybody who we've got.
Today we have a Denver-based criminal defense and immigration lawyer, Hahn.
Yeah.
Who's going to talk with us about how her field is managing during this coronavirus time.
Hey, Christine, welcome to the podcast.
Hi guys, how are you?
Now, my understanding is you were born in Korea?
No, I was born in Philadelphia.
Oh,
but I am Korean.
You are Korean. So did you
Yes.
grow up eating Korean food at least?
Absolutely, 3 meals a day.
Well, it's wonderful to meet you. We haven't met before, but I've read about you and some of the things that you're doing and that you have accomplished are just extraordinary in your brief legal career. If you don't mind, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I am a second generation Korean American. There are no attorneys in my family. And I went to law school in Michigan, in the state of Michigan. I moved back to Colorado. I've had my firm for about 6 years now. So our focus is immigration law, but I also practice family law and criminal defense. But it focuses on my immigration clients. So I do their divorce, I do represent them in criminal proceedings, as well as their green cards and all kinds of visas.
And so, we live here in Miami, so the majority of immigration clients that we see are from South America, Central America, from Cuba, Haiti. Where do you see your clients coming from in Denver?
Right. So I have a wide range of clients because immigration is my main focus. I would say about 1/3 of my clients are out of state or outside the United States. I've never met them in my entire life because, immigration is federal law. The local clients that I have a lot of South American clients as well. I do a lot of consular processing, particularly from Ciudad Juarez in Mexico, and as well as countries like Venezuela, Brazil, and obviously also Asian countries. I am Korean, I am bilingual. I'm also writing a column. I'm a columnist for the Colorado Times and a weekly Focus newspaper. So that's kind of my audience. I also did radio before. So we had Vietnamese, Korean, Japanese, and a lot of Asian clientele here as well. But just in general, even clients from Africa, immigration is such a broad area. And I cover all bases, including family-based immigration, waivers, employment-based immigration, and sometimes deportation as well.
Well, it's amazing that you've got such a wide variety of cases. But one thing that I was particularly interested in talking to you about was during this coronavirus, well, first of all, how are you doing during this time?
I'm okay. I'm adapting to the changes of how we practice law, obviously. There's been major changes everywhere, but particularly when it comes to immigration. We have this new executive order passed by the president, and we're dealing with that and maneuvering.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I don't know about the executive order.
Sure. So the executive order, it's a 60-day suspension on immigration. And, a lot of people were freaking out when this happened, and it got into effect in April 23rd. And it only applies to those who are seeking entry into the United States as immigrants from outside the United States. So it doesn't affect people who are green card applicants here in the United States. It's only for those abroad. So certain people, there's a ban basically of who can enter the United States. And then there's a wide range of exemptions as well.
Right, such as?
So I'm going to briefly go over it because it's very technical and, I don't want to get too boring here. But basically, it suspends the entry of people seeking into the United States who is an immigrant who is currently outside the United States on the effective date, which was April 23rd, who does not have a valid immigrant visa on the effective date, and does not have a valid official travel document, such as an advance parole document on the effective date, or issued on any date after that permits travel to the United States. There's a wide range of people who are exempted from this category. First and foremost, lawful permanent residents of the United States, so green card holders. They can freely travel back and forth. Second, people who are trying to enter the U.S. on an immigrant visa as a physician, nurse, or other healthcare professionals to perform medical research intended to combat the spread of the COVID-19. So that's very important. That's a exemption category. EB-5 investor visa applicants, so those who invest about $1 million to acquire a green card, those are exempted as well. Spouses of U.S. citizens, children of U.S. citizens under the age of 21, and prospective adoptees of U.S. citizens seeking to enter the United States. Of course, the members of the U.S. Armed Forces and their spouses and children. And there's a certain group of people who are eligible for special immigrant visas as an Afghan or Iraqi translator, interpreter, or U.S. government employee. So, and then also asylum applicants, refugee applicants, those people are exempt as well. Individuals whose entry would be in the national interest, they are exempt as well. So what's important to take away from this, I try to tell my clients, it's not affecting everyone, but it is going to affect a lot of cases. And it's very discretionary. So there's, if you read the executive order signed by the president, the discretion is given to the consular officer abroad, to U.S. embassies and U.S. consulates abroad to determine if anyone falls under this exemption.
Wow, what a complicated and difficult problem for people
Yes.
who are in the process of coming to the United States.
Right.
You know, one of the things I was really worried about are the people who are here that are undocumented.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we've had on our podcast a few lawyers that are talking about clients of theirs that are undocumented and are afraid to get medical care.
Yes.
Because they're concerned that, you know, if they go to a hospital, they're going to end up getting deported.
Yes.
So they're exposing themselves and their loved ones to unnecessary risks, staying at home sick. What kind of advice or help can you give people that find themselves in that situation?
So typically, and a lot of these are different based on states where people are at as well. But the general rule is you will not get deported if you're seeking emergency care, emergency help, right? So that's not an issue, but you know, there's different laws. Immigration law changes every day. For example, there's a public charge law that was just passed last week of February that makes it harder for green card applicants who are likely to become a public charge. And one of the things that they look at is whether you have a health insurance or not, whether you have gained public benefits or not, right? So there's a lot more different factors that come into play, but just because you're seeking medical care, that in and of itself is not gonna be you know, enough or subject you to deportation. But I do wanna make a comment about not just undocumented immigrants, you know, the executive order that I just talked about, that only applies to people outside the United States, but there's more things going on because of COVID-19 inside the United States. For example, USCIS, their temporary offices were, or they still are temporarily closed ever since March 18th.
What is
that? Was USCIS, the offices in the United States. So immigration services, so where you apply and, you know, have your green card interviews at, your citizenship application interviews, asylum interviews, all of those are now, you know, many of my clients have been affected by this because, you know, if USCIS shuts down and the idea is to help slow the spread of the virus and limit in-person contact. But many of people, even my own clients, they've been waiting years to get this interview, right? And so we don't know when this is going to be rescheduled. And they shut it down temporarily in March 18th. They were originally supposed to reopen first week of May. That has been extended to June 4th, and we don't know if that's going to be extended again. So, you know, this affects millions of people currently because we don't know when this is going to be rescheduled. And a lot of people don't have status, and it's required by law for them to maintain status. Immigration is very a time-sensitive thing, you know, and so attorneys like myself, we prepare years, you know, to time it right. So it's been hard on a lot of people because of that.
I practiced immigration law, Christine, for one morning when I
first did you?
Lawyer. Yeah, there was an immigration lawyer who asked me to do him a favor, and I went down to in those days it was called the INS building.
Oh yes, long time ago.
Yes. Your time. And the line extended, this was like 7 a.m, out the door, around the corner, down the block. And I stood in that line and I said, there's no way I could ever do this. I didn't know
Mhm.
that Miami office, there was a separate entrance for attorneys.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
and this is, before the internet. So
Right.
I said,
Right.
I'm going to take immigration law off the list of potential areas for me to focus on in my career, because it was such a complicated and disorganized area. So I hope that it's evolved and it's easier for you now to practice.
Yes and no. About almost 6 years ago when I first started practicing, I think 5.5 years ago, things were more black and white, I would say. Immigration is it's federal law. It's very broad. You're dealing with multiple agencies under the Department of Homeland Security. You're dealing with consulate posts outside the United States. It's very technical and complex as it is, but it's very, unfortunately, driven by political stuff as well. So when we have a different administration, a different president sign these things into law and it becomes into effect, a lot of immigration lawyers struggle to, okay, what does this mean? How do we have to switch things up now and we have to adapt to the law. And it's a hard conversation to have to clients when I told them one thing a year ago, and now we have to completely switch up the strategy. And again, these are affecting not only the applicant itself, but the whole family usually is affected by it. Children, spouses, you're bringing in people from outside of the country. It's a very long and technical process. So it hasn't been easy for sure.
I don't remember it always being so political until the current administration. Was it that way before and I just didn't notice? But
I would agree. I definitely would agree. Don't really want to get too political on this, but yeah, it just, if the president decides to sign off executive orders left and right, that's going to have a huge impact on it. The first example is, right after the Obama administration, the changes with DACA, right? That was also signed off by President Trump, and that really heavily limited what was done for DACA beneficiaries and applicants from the previous administration. So there's a lot of limitations on benefits now. It's more strict, heightened scrutiny with everything, strict scrutiny. There's a lot of RFEs, we call it requests for evidence, as we call it, NOIDs, notice of intent to denies, that are being issued left and right for really no reason. And it's hard for people to get it right. When the law is passed, the immigration officer has to implement it well, but we don't really even have enough government resources to make it make sense, if you will. So if the target is criminals, the target is bad people we don't want in this country, that should be our focus. And I don't think that's really being done, so it's just all across immigrants in general. I have a client who's a 92-year-old grandmother, no issues, no criminal record, nothing like that. And a case like that would have been approved within 8 to 9 months in the Denver field office, sometimes now takes up to 2-3 years. So it's a lot of resources that are going into this, and it's not personally as effective, if you will, from what the president is trying to achieve.
Which is all the more reason why, Nory, you need to have an advocate in your corner that has the experience and expertise of somebody like Christine. I mean, she clearly knows and is passionate about helping those who are in the process of becoming Americans, which is really that's the American dream. And people are very lucky to have you on their side, Christine.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, you're based in Denver, but if somebody, in Saudi Arabia or in Wichita, Kansas, or wherever has the need to consult with you regarding an immigration matter, what's the best way for them to reach you?
So again, 1/3 of my clients I've never met in my entire life. Outside of the state, I have many clients in Florida too, actually, and outside this country. So they contact my office, and I do a phone consultation. Sometimes I do Zooms like this now that we're dealing with the COVID-19, and I prepare them step by step. A lot of these cases, it doesn't happen overnight, right? So it takes years to get someone into the United States, or for someone to be granted a green card. So I'm their step of the way. So first step is completed. I walk them through. Second step is this. Third step is this. So I do a lot of those consultations over the phone mainly, I would say.
That's wonderful. And so what's your number and what's your email and how can people
Oh,
call?
sure. So my phone number, the office phone number is 303-872-3851. If you call, my office manager will, schedule your first consultation. Our first consultation is free. So it's limited to 30 minutes, but most people are done. I would say 95% of the clients are done within 30 minutes. And email is info@Hahn, H-A-N, -legal.com. So again, a lot of inquiries are usually are done through email or phone, and we just set it all up and we make the process super easy. Even for clients outside of the country, we will work with you. International phone calls, we'll work with the time and all of that stuff.
Fantastic. Do you have any questions?
Well, I guess it would kind of make sense based off of your background. But what drew you more to do immigration law rather than criminal defense? I mean, I know that you do practice that as well, but why are you focusing more on that?
Great question.
Yes, great question. And I get this question a lot. And I think it's because I am a fairly young attorney. I have my own firm and everything. I think that, I come from a family of immigrants. My parents immigrated to the United States in early 1980s. And I've first-handedly seen them struggle, maneuver the immigration system and gain status and adjust to different obstacles in their new life in America. As immigrants, there's different challenges that people need to face on the regular, even if it's a divorce, even if it's a criminal charge like a DUI or something. You should never go to a regular criminal defense attorney because you want to be represented in the right way, that someone who knows immigration law and immigration consequences. We call it crimmigration in our field. So, there's a lot of different things that you have to consider when you live in the United States as an immigrant. And again, I've seen that through my parents' own struggles and people in the community. And I've always known I wanted to be an attorney, but during law school is when I kind of decided that I wanted to really focus on immigration. It comes naturally. It's very easy to me. It's like a puzzle and I love it. So, focus on that. And obviously, because I'm so into immigration law, I know how family law matters should be dealt with, right? And how criminal defense issues should be dealt with to protect the immigration client's interests. So it's a good area for me. I love it. It's fun for me. And it is very meaningful to see how much you can have an impact on clients' lives. I always say to people, living in America is a huge privilege to a lot of people outside the United States. There's so many people, millions of people who would love to be a lawful permanent resident, who would love to become a US citizen. It is not easy. And there's people who want to do it the right way. And there's people who can't do it the right way, unfortunately. And those who don't know the law can just say it easily, oh, well, I did it the right way. It doesn't work like that for everybody. So it's about, getting the right strategy, doing it, giving different options when those are available, and, really representing the client as they should be. So it's an area that I've always took interest in.
Well, I think you found your calling, and I want to thank you again for being a guest here today on Trust Me, I'm a Lawyer podcast.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Be well and be safe. It was nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too. Bye, guys.
I hope one day we'll have the privilege of meeting you in person.
Yes, I'm very excited to do that. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
So, Nory, you've got some more interesting guests scheduled for Trust Me, I'm a Lawyer. Who's coming up in the next week or so?
Oh, well, the mayor of Miami-Dade County is definitely going to be one of our coolest guests, and I'm coordinating times with his secretary.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And if people are interested in being a guest on the podcast, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Just email us at trustmeimalawyerpodcast@gmail.com or DM us on our Instagram, which I'll include in the bio.
And if they're interested in sponsoring an episode?
Just reach out to us through email. We could coordinate that as well.
Very good. This was an interesting guest, a great and valuable source of information.
I agree. For sure.
All right. Thank you, Nory. Thank you for watching.